and welcome to another This Sporting Life. And thanks for joining us on an evening when too much sport will be barely enough. Later in the program at this very card table, we'll be joined by Democrat leader Cheryl Kernot, and Roy and I are going to wrestle a couple of issues to death with Cheryl that confront this very, very great Asian nation of ours. But first, let's get a big man on the leap simply by dangling the blood-red meat in front of his eyes and asking, Rampaging Roy Slaven, what was the highlight of your week?
Thank you very much, H.G. Nelson. A couple of things, both related to golf. Firstly, yes, the great white shark, our Greg Norman, is back as the Seiko weeping date finger #1 golf player in the world. He's Australian, he's the great white shark, and that's fabulous news. The other is that other golfing Australian, that is Roger McKay, yes, has won the Chunichi Crowns Classic in Japan. His 8th Japanese PGA Tour victory, and I thought, hello, I'm going to open up the paper today and the back page will just be alive with Roger McKay. What do we get? Roger McKay. McKay all the way. This tiny little grab here. I would have... Well, it disappoints me. I just thought it was worth more than that. So, a high and a low.
Yes, indeed. And, Roy, for about the past 15 years on This Sporting Life, we wanted to discuss cheer squads and what they mean to sport. Yes. Now, during the week, an issue was highlighted concerning netball, that's right, netball and cheer squads, and the cheer squad in question, Heavens Legends. Now, unfortunately, the Heavens Legends, the netball cheer squad for the Adelaide Contacts, were rubbed out and shown the sideline due to the fact that officialdom has run amok again in the ranks of netball. But, Roy, we've got some footage of the Heavens Legends in action. Yes. Let's go to that now, I think.
Yes, well, have a look at the Legends' work. I don't think there's anything offensive about it. All you see is a cheer squad, which is male, not female. And you've got the blokes here who I think are very exciting. They even do that hip-hop street gear that we'll see here in a moment.
Oh, here it comes.
Here it comes. Oh, look at that. Now, that is class. Compare it with the more... Here they are, sideline, not allowed to perform anymore because people find it offensive. I say this is on the borderline of offensiveness. This is... and look at this. This is the stuff you get in New Zealand. Look at that. Oh, cowgirls in New Zealand. And here we have the Swanettes. Yeah. No class, as far as I'm concerned, at all. I've always felt that cheerleaders, by and large, should augment the game. You know, I believe in the Bert Newton principle, yes, that a little bit of old-fashioned variety doesn't hurt in sport. Yeah. That's what I've always felt. Yeah. And even with the Lithgow Shamrocks, we had the sizzling blue-lued Shamettes. And they added a tremendous amount, H.G. Nelson, to the game because they're young kiddies who have a theatrical bent who want to express their love of sport. The same with the Heavens Legends. I see nothing wrong with it at all. More power to them.
And what I loved about the Shamettes work, they were obviously sponsored by the local butchers, and every so often one of the Shamettes would go down and the ambulance men would run along and pull out a couple of kilos of snags, and the crowd would erupt and there'd be rubble everywhere. And then there was a lot of that gear of being able to be involved in the play as well, as the play was happening, as the try was being scored in the rugby league. And it does disappoint me that the Heavens Legends, who are all tremendous people, they're all so fit, have been rubbed out and sidelined in this most cruel and callous manner. Yes. And I believe that officialdom in sport, especially when it comes to cheer squads in this nation, should have a good hard look at itself, should go in the room of mirrors and stay in there for a long, long time, Roy Slaven.
I agree with you. Listen, before we go back, can we just check to see if camera 1's working? Can we just go to camera 1? Just for a little bit? Let's have a look. Yeah, there it is. Whoa, it does work. Because I was confused there for a little while. We'll be back, will we?
We're going to our street first.
Good.
Here we are in Bronte Road, your street, and we've got a terrific family group up here, just having spent the best part of a few hours at the beach, at Bronte Beach.
Oh, they're all fit, aren't they?
That's the first thing that strikes you about them, is they're fit. They're very, very fit, and they look to me as though there's a bit of a blue on.
Yeah, Nan got in, and they don't want her to sit in the back, obviously. They wanted to sit somewhere else. Green shirt, that is Gloria Green, fiddling with the back door there just a little bit. She's debating where she's going to sit, and the kiddie... He probably wants to drive.
There are more. How many people are going to get in that van? Now they shoot off one. They've shoot off just Shorts up there, Mr. Shorts. Yeah. He's left his shirt down the beach.
No, he's going to sit in the front. What about Gran? Shouldn't Gran be in the front? Or maybe they're debating as to whether they'll go or not. They might decide they might stay or go back or have a bite to eat or something like that. But there is a pretty lively discussion going on as to who... What they need is someone to take charge.
Go on, off you go. Tell them to sort them out. That's...
I bloody well might.
Our street. Hence, your street.
Hang on. Oh, I'll have a look at them.
Go and sort them out right, Roy. You got plenty of room there.
Yeah, it's all right.
How far he's going to get here.
Now, who's going to sit where?
I've seen him do this before in India. I've never seen him do it in Australia. Yes, and we have been inundated back chat, Timmy Bowden style, and thanks very much, Tim, for all the good work on our behalf, with mail concerning our street. And the first cab off the rank, our streetwise for 1994, Roy Slaven, is...
Yes, we do have someone who's been in touch with us. So here they are. Here are these kiddies here. It's Lisa Jones and Chris Mathias. Yes. And they were spotted, you might recall, I think they were buying a glory box, yes, an antique glory box in High Street, Fremantle. If we can just recall yes, that moment.
Refresh the memory here.
Here they are, coming out with the glory box, as we mentioned. And isn't it good that they've got in contact with us? And I think they are the first winners. Not that they got in early enough to win the...
Brock Commodore,
no.
747 that was surplus to requirement in Seattle. Yeah, yeah. But they're going to get both an attractive prize from the This Sporting Life team. And thanks very much to those terrific people there.
Lisa and Chris.
Lisa and Chris for contacting us concerning our street.
And I think Lisa might be from England, just visiting. So what a bonus. What stories Lisa's going to tell when she gets back home.
Is tremendous, and obviously other people have contacted us with a view to being notified that they appeared in our street, and we'll be bringing you those in the next week. In the meantime, we'll be back with more life after this.
With the lawn, Cyril. Don't forget to clean the car.
When you've got it all, have Ciro come round and clean the car.
Scott Fisher here. Remember me? I'm a wild cat. Where I come from, they never heard of Tim Fisher, Ann Sanders, or the Brock Commodore. The only thing we've heard of from down under is New South Wales Rugby League cheese.
On This Sporting Life, let's clean ourselves up, cross our knees, mutter our mantras, and join the masters of travel, Roy and HG, on Our Australia.
Hello and welcome to Our Australia. Here we are at Norman Lindsay's place. Now, over the years, over the time together in This Sporting Life, we haven't had a chance to go to artiste's house that often, but we've come up to Norman Lindsay today for a number of reasons. Firstly, obviously, the bloke loved working blue. Roy and myself don't like working blue that much. If you are at all worried about blue things, turn off now. If you're offended by what happens in the next few minutes, you've only got yourselves to blame. Now, Roy, you've loved Norman's gear for many, many years. What's going through the artist's mind here?
Yes, he was a very troubled sort of bloke, was Norman Lindsay. Often his self-portraits show him as a hunchback with the weight of the world on his shoulders. I think the weight of the world, in Norman's sense, was a couple of things. I think he did have trouble with the lewd sort of work, and if we have a look around here, we'll see the sort of Norman character here portrayed as the satyr on the pinch, going for the go anti-wallopater, i.e. the buttock, the right buttock in this inst. Beautiful bit of work, and he's got a bit of a tail there which is suggestive of more lewd gear. If we have a look over at the wet one, there's a bit of wet stuff over here. He liked working wet. Norman, he got a lot of people under a horse with, again, a nude blowing out the water out the top.
Roy, the person on the horse, does it ring...
It's evocative, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very evocative.
It's evocative.
What would you say it was like in the modern era, you know?
Elle Macpherson.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah, Elle portrayed the person on the horse in the film Sirens, which I think we'll get a chance to have a look at very, very shortly. But we should have a look at some other lewdy work of Norman while we're here, I think. Yes. So if we come over this way, we'll see a bit more.
Remember, if you don't like it lewd, turn off. Well, we brought you down this end of the garden, ladies and gentlemen, in our Australia, because behind us here, the backdrop behind us here, is Norman Lindsay's studio, i.e. where he got very hands-on with everybody, including himself. And we've stood in front of these three of a kind here, done in your cement. And I've got two criticisms about Norman Lindsay's gear. I believe, and I think I'm the first in art history to say that, is that he concentrated very much on the upper body. When you look at the knees here, knees are hopeless. When you look at the legs there, they're hopeless. Poorly realised, poorly finished off, no definition, no articulation of what a knee looks like. Look at your own knees for a moment now and quickly have a grok at those. However, upstairs, obviously, everybody built very, very fine in Norman Lindsay's world and obviously loved it, grins all round. And here again we have your half woman, half goat on the job with a couple of other two-of-a-kinds. Roy, it's a terrific bit of work.
Yeah, I don't often disagree, but in this instance I will. And I remember having a bit of an argument about with Robert Hughes not so long back, who took this position, exact position you have done, HG. This, to me, is Norman's three sisters. This is the way Norman saw them, as erotic, aroused, perhaps spiritually diseased, a little bit too close for people of the same sex, perhaps. I don't know, but remember, we're looking through the eyes of a person who was existing in the 1920s. This is the way he saw it in the 1920s. I like it. I find it most evocative, and I could stand here for hours, but we won't. We should move on. Let's have a look at the pool. I think what Norman was doing with the pool is interesting, because Norman loved
wet.
Yeah.
But going back there, you know, the knees, I mean, you couldn't, if you were selling that bit of work on the knees, you wouldn't sell it.
This sporting life now asks you to walk a mile in the shoes of a special Asian.
And tonight on Walk a Mile in Our Shoes, we're joined by, let's face it, a person who has an enormous record, a lot of runs on the board, not only in the cricket caper, but in the parliamentary caper. We welcome Democrat leader Cheryl Kernot. Thanks very much, Cheryl, for coming in.
Hello.
Now, obviously, it's a bit of a Dorothy Dixer to start with concerning duds in Parliament. We hear there are a lot of duds in Parliament. No one watches this show. Only three of us here, so you can spill your beans vis-a-vis duds.
I think they're all wonderful. Hard-working, earning every cent of that taxpayers' money. Nobody's snoozing on the back benches.
I don't mind them snoozing.
Nobody boozing either.
No, right. Now, obviously the tabloid press would have you believe that a number of them are at each other's throats all the time. Obviously, this isn't the truth. Obviously, they'd be worn-out wrecks if they kept it up as the various tabloid papers might have you believe. You know, do they get on? Do the Labor Party and the Liberal Party, you know, can they get around a golf together without ruining it by, you know, yelling and shouting at each other over the score and so on?
I'm a bit confused because I think deep down they do hate each other a fair bit. Up in the parliamentary dining room, the Labor Party sit down one end, Liberal Party, National Party sit down the other end. Democrats hardly ever go up there because we reckon we need a sort of demilitarised zone in the middle. Yes. But there are personal friendships which cross party lines. Yeah.
Yes, as it should be.
Yeah.
Cheryl, the visage that you project, you're known as a fair person, very reasonable. Do you see yourself as a fair and reasonable person, Cheryl?
I think it's better than a fit and proper person.
Yes, but fair and reasonable.
I think it's easy to be seen to be fair because I don't hate them. They dislike each other pretty intensely, particularly for 1 hour of the day at question time.
Right.
I don't bring that baggage. I don't believe that life is black and white.
No.
That everything unions do is bad and everything business does is good, or vice versa. So I guess when they're behaving like that, it's a bit easier to stand back and assess. And maybe people think I'm being fair. I don't know. But I tell you what, it earns you a few nicknames along the way.
Yeah, what like?
Goody two-shoes.
Goody two-shoes. Well, you are a bit of a bloody goody two-shoes. Well, listen, if you are so bloody fair and fair-minded, what is fair about 6 people representing all of New South Wales and 6 representing Tasmania, which has a population of what? Maybe 250,000, and you've got 20 or 6 or 7 million represented by only 6 as well in New South Wales?